Tonight, criminal charges after an RBC employee allegedly accessed the Prime Minister's banking information.
It's your bank records. What did the RBC say about your bank records?
What court documents reveal about the accused and an alleged criminal plot. A sniper opens fire on an immigration enforcement office in Texas, raising new fears of political violence in the U.S.
If your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell.
And as Canada promises to spend billions more on defense, we will take you inside the companies hoping to cash in.
These vehicles can travel typically around 100 kilometers an hour.
And break down what it could take to get it done. You're talking about wading through bureaucratic mud, it sounds like.
Yeah, like a field of bureaucratic mud.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with news of criminal charges after the Prime Minister's own banking information was accessed. The RCMP believe they know who did it, a bank employee, and they say it was all part of a bigger criminal plot. A now former Royal Bank of Canada worker is facing several charges accused of accessing Mark Carney's banking profile without authority to do so, as well as accessing the profile of someone named Justin Trudeau, who, as it happens, is a different person from the former Prime Minister. Nicole Williams takes us through what we're learning tonight from investigators about how this happened and possibly why.
Prime Minister Mark Carney, one of the most protected people in this country, not commenting on his banking information being the target of an alleged plot linked to organized crime. According to court documents, an employee at this Royal Bank of Canada branch near Parliament Hill was arrested in July. RCMP alleged the 23-year-old was using the bank's system to access the Prime Minister's profile.
The bank employee had access to what the client information was in the bank's computer systems, meaning his assets, whether he has investment, mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc.
The accused allegedly told investigators he was lured online into a larger scheme to create fake bank profiles and obtain lines of credit, and was paid $500 each time for a total of $5,000. Ibrahim El Hakim is now facing multiple charges including fraud, identity theft, and trafficking identity information.
It just reinforced that we need to have strong procedures in place.
Canada's finance minister reacting with this word of warning.
It applies to all Canadians, so it just reminds everyone that, privacy and having system to prevent, fraudulent access to anyone's file is something that we should all be concerned about.
In a statement, RBC wouldn't comment on the specifics of the case, but says we independently identified unauthorized system access, took immediate action to engage authorities, and the individual named is no longer employed at the bank. The RCMP says it does not believe there was a risk to the Prime Minister's safety or to national security.
The RBC employee also allegedly targeted a Justin Trudeau, but probably not the one you're thinking. RCMP says it was a man with that name, but is in fact not the former Prime Minister.
And Nicole, obviously this raises some security questions at one of Canada's biggest banks. What are the experts saying about this?
Well, they're saying, Adrienne, it happens a lot more often than we think, particularly with high-profile Canadians. And they say it's really on the banks to make sure that people's private information is safe in the hands of its employees, but there are currently not enough safeguards in place to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen more often.
All right, Nicole Williams in Ottawa tonight. The Prime Minister is also facing questions tonight about his public safety minister after he was caught on tape appearing to question the effectiveness of the Liberals' gun buyback program. Ashley Burke now with the attacks Carney faced in question period.
Hey guys. For the first time, this Prime Minister forced in question period to defend one of his own.
Will the Prime Minister stop the politics, fire the minister?
Mark Carney facing Conservative calls for his public safety minister to go.
Not doing so calls into question the Prime Minister's judgment.
Gary Anandasangari was secretly recorded discussing the government's gun buyback program with an acquaintance. A gun rights group released the tape. On it, the minister suggests police might not have the capacity to arrest people that don't comply.
I just don't think municipal police services have the resources to do this.
And suggests why Liberals are moving ahead.
This is something that very much a big deal for many of the Quebec electorate that voted for us. Right? And that's one of the major things.
The minister says it's a bad idea, but they're only doing it for political reasons.
What the Minister of Public Safety is doing it right. He's correcting an inefficient system.
The public safety minister forced repeatedly to defend himself too.
This is staggering incompetence. Why won't the Prime Minister fire him?
Mr. Speaker, staggering incompetence is when you think that AR-15s can be used for hunting.
It's going to be a challenge for the government for a short number of days.
This former staffer for Justin Trudeau, who knows Anandasangari well, says she thinks the Prime Minister will understand he was secretly recorded and keep him on.
In this case, I don't think anything would change his view on Minister Anandasangari, and I think that's why he defended him today.
After facing off with Pierre Poilievre in question period, Carney will escape questions from the opposition at least for a few days. He's leaving for London on Thursday with his public safety minister still on the job. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
In British Columbia, a last-minute reprieve tonight for an ostrich farm that has been fighting a cull order. That order is now on pause.
Miracle! We just finished a prayer. We just finished a prayer. It's Miracle Wednesday.
The daughter of the farm's co-owner celebrated after learning the Supreme Court of Canada has granted a temporary stay while it considers the case. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered the cull last December in response to a bird flu outbreak at the farm. After months of protests and court battles, CFIA agents, backed by police, moved to execute a warrant on the farm earlier this week. Well, U.S. authorities are calling a deadly shooting at a Texas immigration facility a targeted attack. A sniper opened fire, killing a detainee and injuring 2 others. Katie Simpson now with why FBI officials say they have evidence the gunman was motivated by hatred for ICE officials.
Police rushed to this immigration processing center for shots fired, they say, indiscriminately toward the building. A sniper with a rifle on a nearby roof taking aim, terrifying for families who had loved ones inside. Helpless witnesses heard multiple gunshots as they waited for their mom, who was at an immigration appointment.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence.
29-year-old Joshua John has been identified by U.S. news agencies as the suspect, found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Detainees were shot while near a secluded entrance, and while no ICE agents were injured, police say they were the intended target.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
According to the FBI director, shell casings with the words anti-ICE were found near the gunman.
Everyone's really shook up. Everyone's really scared because this is, like I said, a pure attack on ICE.
Oh, they got raided right now.
Frontline ICE agents are carrying out the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda, sparking protests over their tactics and intense criticism from some Democrats.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic.
What happened in Dallas is the latest in an increase of attacks on ICE agents. And it comes 2 weeks after the killing of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. Officials called it a politically motivated assassination. The Trump administration broadly blaming Democrats and the media for the volatile political environment.
But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
While the Trump administration has called for the political temperature to be lowered, at the same time, they've also ratcheted up their own attacks on their opponents.
And Katie, on social media, President Trump has said he's been briefed on the Dallas shooting.
Yeah, and he's blaming domestic terrorism networks made up of what he says are deranged radical leftists, even though there's nothing indicating the suspect in this case or the Charlie Kirk case that either were involved in some kind of network. Still, he's vowing to use the power of the government to pursue this.
All right, Katie Simpson reporting from Washington tonight. Thank you, Katie. One day after Donald Trump suggested Kyiv could win all of Ukraine back, there are questions about how much trust can be put in that. Volodymyr Zelenskyy welcomed Trump's shift, but still warned UN leaders more must be done to stop Russia. Margaret Evans shows us his plea for action.
A big week in New York for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. His address to the gathered nations, an appeal to save Ukraine, and with it, faith in the international community.
Peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it.
His address followed some unexpected cheerleading, Donald Trump posting on social media that Ukraine could be in a position to regain all its territory from Russia with European help.
It's a big shift. It's a big shift. This post of Trump, it's a big shift.
It was just over a month ago that Trump hosted Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil, handing the Russian president what critics called a PR coup. And in the past, Trump has insisted Ukraine will have to cede territory to Russia in exchange for peace, meaning his latest remarks are being taken with a grain of salt.
After all, it's become a common maxim amongst world diplomats trying to decipher Donald Trump that he's often swayed by whoever he speaks to last.
That's why the Kremlin's response to Trump's remarks has been relatively subdued, says analyst Mikhail Sinelkov-Orishak. In Moscow, they understand that no matter what Trump says at one moment, there's still time to shift the situation in their favor, he says. In Ukraine, the verdict was much the same from people enduring ongoing Russian attacks. He's the kind of person who changes his mind every week, says Alexander, a soldier. It is, of course, on the ground in Ukraine where what's at stake in terms of international pressure and diplomacy is most painfully clear. These images from Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine after the latest Russian drone attack on the city. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Typhoon Ragasa is lashing China's southern coast after killing at least 17 people. Torrential rain caused a lake to burst in Taiwan, trapping people in their homes and washing away a major bridge. It is being called the most powerful tropical cyclone this year. The largest cities in the storm's path are home to around 50 million people. Nearly 2 million people have been evacuated. We're getting a behind-the-scenes look tonight at history in the making. Astronaut Jeremy Hansen is set to become the first Canadian to travel to the moon along with his 3 American crewmates next year. Paul Hunter is at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where final preparations are already intensifying.
So the main control system is a touchscreen, and so that way they can be compatible with that.
From the high-tech gloves to the super strong neck brace and airtight sleeves,
and then your locking tabs actually.
The spacesuits for the Artemis II astronauts are meant to be ready for anything.
So this spacesuit has been designed for the astronauts to pretty much survive any anomaly.
At the Johnson Space Center in Houston, it's likely the last chance for NASA to show off its stuff ahead of its now looming historic mission to send people to the moon and back.
So as they do the lunar flyby operation, they're going to be taking photos out the windows.
A lunar flyby, a test run really, to prove that NASA, for the first time since the Apollo program of the 1970s, can do this. If all goes well with Artemis II, the plan is for the following mission to actually land on the moon. For Canada, all eyes now will be on mission specialist Jeremy Hansen, seen here in training. One of 4 Artemis II astronauts, he'll be the first Canadian ever to leave Earth's orbit.
And to my fellow Canadians, you should also be extraordinarily proud that we are represented in the Artemis program. And it wasn't a gift, you earned it.
Hansen gives big-time shout-outs to NASA on this and the Canadian Space Agency and, of course, the 3 Americans who'll be with him on board.
He's funny.
In turn, the Americans highlight Hansen's hard work, his sense of humor, and constant creative thinking.
There is nothing that he doesn't just think about. Like, well, what if you did this? What if you did that? What if you did this? Why does it work this way? How could it work a different way? And those questions, when you're flying a spacecraft for the very first time, those questions lead to a lot of discovery.
And by the way, the backup astronaut to Hansen, fellow Canadian Jenny Gibbons.
We're close to launch now, so we're getting all of our classes complete. We're preparing for the mission. It's very developmental still, but we're starting to nail down a lot of the areas we need for flight. We're getting ready.
Are you having fun?
I'm having a great time. I really am. Yeah, I love this. I love this stuff.
For us, Hansen underlined the inspiration that he hopes Canadians will take from all of it.
And I think it's extraordinary that we're the second country in the world to send a human into deep space. And if we're doing this, imagine what we can do next. So it's very powerful for me.
NASA says the launch may be as soon as February, so the training for Hansen and the others now intensifies. The moon awaits. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Houston.
A major new study says the world is seeing a steady rise in cancer cases. As Jennifer Yoon explains, while Canada has been able to stay ahead of that wave so far, the numbers are expected to keep on rising, which is why there are calls to prepare now.
Screening more people for cancer and treating more cancer patients. This Montreal doctor is already feeling the strain.
People are living longer, which is good, but that also means they're receiving treatments for longer. And I think for staffing, it's been difficult to maintain technologists in the hospital.
Now a new study out of The Lancet suggests more cancer cases and deaths are coming globally. By 2050, researchers expect 18.6 million cancer deaths annually, an increase of 75% from 2024. New cancer cases are also expected to grow to 30.5 million, an increase of 61%. Researchers say that trend will play out here in Canada too.
The population is increasing and older people are living longer, you're going to have more cases.
And the Canadian Cancer Society says that will mean even more strain on the healthcare system.
It does suggest that a lot of additional investments and increases in funding are very likely needed.
Some doctors already see room for improvement as they brace for more cases.
We need to do better with our efficiency, our scheduling. We need to be a bit better at delivering care at home, getting people out of the hospital.
And we had better start preparing now, some say.
In my field, just to train a radiation oncologist takes more than 10 years, so it's not something that we can change on a dime. So we need to be able to project into the future manpower, equipment, and staffing.
When analyzing the data and accounting for the growing risk of cancer as we age, researchers say Canada is doing better than many other countries in treating cancer. Cancer death rates are declining, even as absolute numbers increase. They're hoping by amping up screening and prevention, we'll continue to see that trend. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
A marketplace investigation has found most single-use plastic alternatives in Canada are just ending up in landfills.
Is this renewable and sustainable?
No, it's single-use garbage.
The pushback against compostable products. New concerns about middle schools that start in grade 6.
It's worth asking, is it working as we intended?
Why making the leap early may impact test scores. And an unlikely winner in an Alan Doyle lookalike contest.
I chose the winner based on vibe.
We're back in 2. That is a terrifying moment along a busy highway in Bangkok today. The road suddenly caved in, swallowing cars, power lines, and leaving a massive sinkhole about 50 meters deep. Officials say it may have been triggered by heavy rain and ongoing construction at an underground subway station. Homes and a nearby hospital were also evacuated, but there were no reports of injuries. A marketplace investigation is taking a closer look at products that are labeled compostable. They're supposed to be better than single-use plastics. But as Chelsea Agro shows us, some aren't quite as advertised.
Even after 14 weeks underwater.
Oh, there it is.
Buried in the dirt. And a backyard composter.
Honestly, that looks practically brand new. It's dirty, but it's sturdy.
The only products that fully broke down in Marketplace's test of 30 different plastic alternatives, a paper straw, and 2 paper plates.
This says renewable and sustainable. Is this renewable and sustainable?
No, it's single-use garbage.
Environmental expert Karen Wersig wasn't surprised how little the compostable products broke down.
The stuff that looks and feels and is marketed closer to plastic is effectively plastic, and it's doing the same kind of damage in the environment as conventional plastic.
Many compostable products on the market are labeled and suitable for industrial compost facilities only. Facilities that simply don't exist in many Canadian cities. Toronto's green bin program is full of compostable plastic, but none of it will actually be composted here. All of it is sorted out and sent to landfill. This facility can't process it. And while some municipalities in Canada can and do process some compostable plastic, every region is different, and that's a big part of the problem, according to Toronto's manager, Matt Keeler.
We need to look at it beyond just Toronto. What would make it better for Toronto? It's what would make it better for everyone in Canada. And I think that would be just standardization in terms of how we process organics across the country, not have it divvied up into, municipality accepting a couple products that the neighbor doesn't accept.
When we asked Environment Minister Julie DeBruzen to come on camera and talk about her plans to put plastic alternatives in their place, she refused. Her office did send a statement, though, saying they proposed labeling rules for compostable products back in 2023. Those are on hold, though, while we await a federal court decision. Chelsea Agro, CBC News, Toronto.
You can watch the season premiere of Marketplace, Plastic Alternatives, Eco-Friendly or Eco-Fiction, Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC TV or anytime on CBC Gem and YouTube. Well, a new report out of Ontario is questioning the merit of middle schools.
His concern is that we are introducing an unnecessary transition, which clearly does harm.
The potential downside for younger students. Canada is committing to spending big on defense, but where is all that money going to go?
They need to hire more people to hire more people and hire more people to buy things faster.
The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. A new study in Ontario says there are negative academic impacts for students who switch to middle school in grade 6 as opposed to those who just stay put. Deanna Sumnak-Johnson now with the new findings and the reaction.
Grade 7 student Cleo Troisinar has spent 3 weeks at her new middle school, and so far she gives it a thumbs up.
Well, I like my teachers, and I like how you have to do a certain subject at a certain time.
Mom Emily agrees, but says it's all about timing for the transition to middle school.
I think even from a puberty standpoint, you have kids at really different points in time on that continuum.
A new study has found that kids who enter middle school at the beginning of grade 6 performed significantly worse on Ontario's standardized testing than kids who got to do the test in the same school they've attended since kindergarten.
About 4.5 percentage points fewer students would pass both the literacy and the mathematics test.
Only 8% of Ontario students attend standalone middle schools that start in grade 6. Still, the study reveals something notable, says its author.
The biggest concern is that we are introducing an unnecessary transition, which clearly does harm, and we have very little evidence that it does any good.
It's not entirely surprising that if you have a transition in the year you're tested, that might disrupt the scores a little bit.
Now, all this comes as the Ontario government is rethinking the school system. The province has taken over the supervision of 4 large school boards and has floated the idea of closing underused schools. Middle schools are meant to help adjust to the demands of high school, and there's no sign they're currently at risk.
So middle school was designed to be protective, but with all things education, it's worth asking, is it working as we intended? And I think this study asks good questions.
A lot to consider for both parents and students at a critical time in their development. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Canada's promise to spend billions more on the military and to spend it quickly.
We will ensure that every dollar is invested wisely.
Easy to say, but can the procurement system actually do it?
A field of bureaucratic money.
And what about the sellers? After years of government inertia, are they ready to fill contracts fast? The ambitious plan depends on a rapid timeline and smooth coordination among multiple players, military brass, civil servants, and the defense industry. So, how is that shaping up?
Government must start fulfilling its most fundamental role.
Canada's Prime Minister made a promise.
Defend Canadians.
This country will spend an extra $8.7 billion on defense by the end of March.
We believe that the CAF has the latest in technology.
No wonder defense contractors here are eager to show off what's for sale.
What you see there is the body of the satellite.
It enables you to do a mission rehearsal without having to fly.
It's a lot of money to spend quickly and wisely, and for this industry, hoping to cash in on some of it, it's a very big deal.
I was at work and it was like, wow.
After 30 years of trying to struggle to get people to pay attention to the Canadian Defence Industrial Base, I didn't really expect it. To me, that's been the most notable thing of Mr. Carney's time in office.
Effectively, Canada is now in an arms race, kicked off with a June 9th announcement.
I'm announcing today that Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year, half a decade ahead of schedule.
Moving fast now seems Carney's answer to decades of moving slowly on defense. Yes, on occasion, like the war in Afghanistan, Canada has injected some money into defense, but not a lot, and certainly not for a long time. Consider this. In 2023, Canada was thought to be the only NATO country that was failing to meet both critical spending targets, spending 2% of GDP on defense and making sure 20% of that spending was on research, development, and equipment. So Mark Carney is promising Canada will hit those targets and go even further, hitting 5% of GDP on defense by 2035. That is a promise quite possibly easier said than done.
Spending 2% of GDP.
That is certainly the caution from David Perry, a military expert who spent his entire career looking at defense spending.
Canada's got farther to catch up to get to an overall share of our economy spending on defense than a lot of our allies do.
Our house needs more repairs?
Absolutely. The roof leaks, the basement floods, the wiring's old, and the plumbing needs to be updated. Other countries are doing one or two or a few of those things and putting on an addition. We're kind of doing everything at once, in part because we didn't fix anything for about 25, 30 years.
Here's the reality of that house in disrepair. As a start, Canada needs new warships, new submarines, new coastal defense vessels, new fighter aircraft, new surveillance aircraft, and don't forget new recruits. The Canadian forces are short as many as 14,000 members, especially worrying that some new recruits are leaving in part because they complain of lengthy delays in getting trained.
So we'll put it over the eyes first.
Okay.
So you should be able to see your surroundings and everything.
Precisely a problem the Ottawa-based defense contractor Calian is trying to help solve.
If you take your fist out and rotate it, you can actually change the direction that you're looking at the ships from. Then you can drop down in and be any of the team members that are going to be part of this.
This virtual reality program could rapidly train huge numbers of sailors to refuel ships at sea. We're in a moment where the ambition is to hire more people, to spend more money, to do it quickly. How does this feed into that?
Yeah, you're able to train a lot more people. So the goggles themselves are really not that expensive. You can then have many more people working this virtual reality in training so that when you're able to shorten the training times.
Jay Ballard, once a fighter pilot, is a vice president at Calian.
This is how you train like you're going to fight. You're using the system that you're going to use when you're deployed.
Says industry-wide Canadian defense contracts have been good but inconsistent, and that has made many firms nervous about their futures here.
Because Canada didn't spend as much money post-Afghanistan to align with NATO goals, the defense industry looks at that and goes, well, there's not as much revenue possible here. So a lot of companies either decreased their size or moved out.
That means the decision for defense companies to stay put in Canada has risks. So it's always a gamble.
Yep. Well, for instance, the land vehicle crew training system contract that we just finally submitted a bid. We're teamed with another company to do that. We've been tracking that for 17 years. If you pay a team to stay ready for that, you're investing in that, and nothing's happening. There's no revenue associated with it. It is a sunken cost that just continues to rise.
To suddenly trust that Canada is about to keep its promise may require a leap of faith from contractors. What they do not doubt is the motivation to spend.
If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them. No, I'm not going to defend them.
The U.S. president has made the consequences of not doing so perfectly clear. That makes this a matter of survival as a country and an economy. The Prime Minister getting even more bold with his spending announcement, committing to it being a job creator in Canada.
We will ensure that every dollar is invested wisely, prioritizing made-in-Canada manufacturing and supply chains. We should no longer send 3/4 of our defense capital spending to America.
How will that happen? Well, a recent RBC report estimated that of the 586 defense firms operating in Canada in 2022, 408 were Canadian-owned and based, so you can expect a focus on working with them.
So we're going to see a good view of the integration area.
On working with the likes of MDA Space, a Canadian space technology firm.
So what you see there is the body of the Chorus satellite.
In the defense world, MDA satellites can, for example, detect and track ships that might be in places they aren't supposed to be, even if their transponders are turned off. You could find a ship that is fishing in waters where it's not
Illegal
supposed to be.
fishing is one of the key applications.
Commercially, they can be used for disaster management, like floods. Those commercial contracts have been critical. How quickly could you ramp up to meet demands if a bunch of that money came your way?
We're in a good place because of the factory we're putting together.
That new factory to be ready by the end of 2025. MDA seems ready for growth. Mike Greenlee is the CEO.
We're putting an extension on our factory in Montreal so that we can move from 1 satellite a week this year to 10 satellites a week, 2 per day next year.
Does that mean that you've already received new contracts, though? I mean, in order for that money to be spent, doesn't it have to speed up?
Yes, I would think so. And then if we're going to do it with speed, we have to look at the procurement processes and the workflows that government folks follow to allow them to partner with Canadian industry earlier and sign a contract faster than taking the normal 5 or 6 years it would take to work through the entire process.
5 or 6 years, they've got till the end of March.
Yes.
Speed also matters because Canada isn't the only country upping defense spending. That competition will drive the price of everything up, and in this climate, countries that are buying have demands.
As a space company in Canada that has a large defense presence, I'm being asked these days how I can move manufacturing from Canada to other countries because they're trying to figure out have a larger, more capable sovereign capability, and could I build some space equipment in their country towards their needs.
Prophetic words because this is a fickle business. Just days after we had this conversation, MDA lost a $1.8 billion contract in the United States and lost it to Elon Musk's SpaceX. Contracts from outside Canada are critical in the defense industry here. Recent figures suggest Canada exports about half of what it makes. More than 60% of that goes to the US. 12% goes to the Middle East and Africa. Consider a company like GDLS, General Dynamics, building light armored vehicles.
These vehicles can travel typically around 100 kilometers an hour.
It's an American firm with a huge Canadian presence and hundreds of Canadian workers and supplies. Tires from Eastern Canada, for example, ribbon mesh from Ontario.
But we always try to have a Canadian aspect to it.
So as Dave Haggerty, the vice president for the global supply chain, maintains, they're ready to do more work for Canada, but also say there's no firm indication GDLS will be a part of the new money being promised.
It's been a struggle the last 5 or 6 years. Certainly the work that we've had for Canada, we are very grateful for. But ideally as well, we're also looking for new contracts and new orders all the time.
So when you haven't had those in the last 5 or 6 years, for example, as a business, what do you do?
Exports is a big component of our business here in London.
So you've had to basically go elsewhere for business?
We have.
There are several contracts due to expire this year. Without more lockdown soon, the union says layoffs could happen. So if the government came to you today and said, okay, we've got a contract with you already, we're going to double it, how long would it take for you to deliver those extra vehicles?
We would start work right away.
Canada may say it wants to spend more and speed up, but what is taking so long?
Bigger in financial magnitude?
David Perry, the defense budget expert, has some ideas. What makes it hard to spend this much money? Because it sounds like an inviting prospect to get a shot at spending this much.
A few things. I mean, we haven't had enough money for defense for a very long time, so we've created this whole structure about making sure we get the biggest bang out of every single buck we're trying to spend. A whole lot of process, a lot of double, triple, some cases basically quadruple checking.
You're talking about wading through bureaucratic mud, it sounds like.
Yeah, like a field of bureaucratic mud.
Another complication, the very office now charged with speeding all this up is still trying to staff up. They also need to hire more people to help them hire more people.
They need to hire more people to hire more people and hire more people to buy things faster.
Fixing all this somehow is now the responsibility of a new Defense Procurement Agency, or DPA, headed by a Secretary of State, Stephen Fuhr.
To meet the moment, to move at the speed of relevance, we have to go faster.
Faster is imperative, not just to spend the increased budget, but to avoid getting yesterday's technology tomorrow.
Technology is changing so fast, and our procurement system is so long. So as we see things changing so quickly and we take 5, 6, 7, 10 years to deliver a major capital project, you can see how that's problematic. DPA will make things a lot faster, and I'll give you one great example we just announced. We're going to procure submarines. So contract award initially was 2028, subs in the water by 2035. I think we can get to contract award much, much faster.
But Minister, why are we talking about buying diesel submarines that can only stay at the bottom of the ocean for a few weeks when other countries are buying autonomous vehicles that can stay under much longer and work towards the future? That's what I mean by yesterday's tech.
You need to do both. If you have an A category, first class, world class military, you do both those things.
There are no submarine manufacturers in Canada, but Fuhr echoes Carney's promise to build up the industrial base here when possible. So that building for defense is also building for the economy.
Before now, 75 cents of every dollar that Canada spent went south of the border. We're going to be doing that differently. If we can spend it in Canada without affecting the timeline too much, we're going to do that.
That's good news for Canada's defense companies and possibly this country's bottom line. But time matters. Coming up, our senior reporter on defense and security on the prospects of spending all those billions by the end of fiscal.
I will believe it when I see it.
Murray Brewster breaks down the obstacles that stand in the way. Next. The Prime Minister says Canada will spend billions more on national defense by next March. But the window to make good on a promise that big is rapidly closing. $8.7 billion has to be spent by the end of fiscal. Additional dollars. Is the government on track to do that?
Well, it is a large lift. We're on track right now. It's a big lift.
Murray Brewster, our senior parliamentary defense correspondent, joins us now. So, Murray, Minister Fuhr says, okay, the government is on track to spend $8.7 billion of new money by the end of March. What do you think?
I will believe it when I see it. I've covered a number of defense policies and a number of announcements with all promises, but this one does have money behind it, $8.7 billion. The problem is that some of that money is set aside for salaries. Some of that money is set aside for Ukraine. The Prime Minister has said that the rest of the money is basically foundational, meaning it's there to build bases, it's there to build up the training system, it's there to do a whole bunch of things that the military hasn't done for decades. So I think those are really important points. But the other aspect is that I really don't think that the public, nor even some of the officials in Ottawa, have actually gotten used to the idea that what the government wants to do is actually defense production, because they want to involve Canadian industry, they want to build up Canadian industry. And right now, all they do is defense procurement. They go out and buy stuff. So this is going to require a fundamental shift in the way the government approaches this topic.
Right, we're not talking about simply buying a whole bunch of VR headsets and light armored vehicles. When I spoke to the minister about the procurement process, he said, you know, it's been trapped in sort of analysis paralysis, if you will, for quite some time. And so when I said, all right, how do you then speed that up? He had a bit of an answer. Why don't we listen?
We need to push the people who are making the requirements to go faster. We need to pick processes that can be executed quicker, like this down select to 2 qualified suppliers instead of doing like a request for proposal that, you know, all these different vendors come in and we have to evaluate those. It just, so processes that we pick will matter. Requirements coming to us in a timely fashion matter.
Okay, everybody agrees you got to go faster, pick faster processes, fine. But what's your sense of what the biggest obstacle actually is?
The biggest obstacle is the absence of people right now, because the minister mentioned it. The minister said that they need people there to check requirements, etc. But Canada has had a defense purchasing department that has been understaffed for decades. It was cut during the Cold War. There were roughly 9,500 people doing those sorts of things, and then it was cut to about 4,300, and we've had successive governments who have not put more people back into those slots. So the government is in the process of moving people over to the Defense Department, but it's also looking to hire more people to do this. So, but they're not in place right now. So it's going to be very difficult to get all of that money spent in that time.
One last thought. We're talking about particulars, but what is the vision for Canada's military? Do you have a sense of what that is yet?
I don't think we have a vision for what we expect the Canadian military to do. For decades, we have talked about the Canadian military as being peacekeepers, but we had the Afghan war where they were war fighters. There's been a great focus on forest firefighting. So that vision has not been necessarily articulated, and they're in the process of rewriting the defense policy. We'll have to see what that says. But before you go shopping, you're going to have to know what you want to buy. And you're going to have to know the equipment and capabilities and the number of people that you're going to have to operate what you're buying.
Okay, you can't buy the food without knowing the meal.
That's right.
All right, Murray Brewster, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, a look-alike contest with a Newfoundland spin.
Friend was kind of looking at me like, you know, you can enter.
How a last-minute entry took home the prize. So these are contestants in an Alan Doyle look-alike contest in St. John's, not far from the Great Big Sea frontman's hometown. So the participants channeled various eras of Doyle's career, including Jesse McGrath, who joined on a whim, leading to a not-so-ordinary day. And tonight, that makes our moment.
I was super excited for this event because it's kind of just a silly little bit.
Please tell me, how young Alan Doyle are you?
Before the band broke up. So I just showed up. Just so happened I had a plaid vest on that I had unbuttoned. But my friend was kind of looking at me like, you know, you can enter. I have a mascara in my purse. And I was like, oh, sure, why not? Why not do it? So I buttoned up my plaid shirt and we entered and had a blast.
Is it young Doyle from the 90s?
I just get them to applaud.
Asian Doyle! Yeah!
The vibe was very important. This was a vibe contest.
Okay.
Next year we might make a category for more purists. I don't know.
We'll have some discussions about that. Maybe I'll judge. I've been giggling ever since. It's pretty funny title to have, and I'll definitely honor it all year. I did like a side-by-side photo, and like all my family's kind of like, yeah, I do see it. I see it now.
Give it up for young Doyle!
Okay, this is a country of very good sports, but also no disrespect to the judge, but what the judge didn't realize is that in that group of Alan Doyle lookalikes was Alan Doyle's son, Henry, who apparently did not make the cut, apparently looks nothing like his father. She does. All right, from all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.